My name's Ed Bell, and I'm a farmer from Hagerstown, Indiana, and I wear lots of different hats. Of course, in addition to my farm, I have work with the Standing Wheelchair Company in my off season. I do some consulting for Breaking New Ground, the AgriBility Project, works with farmers and ranchers with disabilities. And then I do some public speaking and so on too. On the ADA steering committee, been on the Governor's Planning Council, but I joined the disability community in 1983 with spinal cord injury. Well, I wasn't really an advocate. I was more of a survivor in the early days. You know, I predate the ADA. I was injured in '83. In fact, this hotel is one of my little stories. This hotel is the first night I was married. I stayed in this hotel, and that was before the ADA in 1983. I was using a wheelchair then. So, in those days, it was not an accessible room. I'm not sure they had an accessible room in those days. There was no definition. And the problem was my problem. Today, accessible room is the hotel's problem. So that was the big paradigm shift for what ADA has done for me personally. It shifted the burden. The burden's still there, but pathway continues to get more smooth as time goes on. I do predate the ADA. I remember when it came about as the new law, and that was really kind of exciting because it was going to, wow, there's an actual civil rights law that's going to create a standard of expectation. Prior to ADA, you call somebody up and say, do you have an accessible hotel room? Or, can I get in your movie theater? Yeah, I think so. And it was the definition of expectation was whoever did the carpentry work that day. And now there's a fundamental level of what you can expect. The level of awareness continues to increase as time goes on. The politically correct word for me in the not-for-profit world is a consumer. And as a farmer, I always chuckle because I'm not a consumer, I'm a producer. Just ask my employees, ask my customers that buy my strawberries. But I mention that because I've had some barriers removed. I have technology that allows me to drive down the road. I get in a van with a wheelchair lift. I have a wheelchair that I can drive, that I can carry a 50-pound bag on my lap. I can stand up and reach things. When I go someplace, I have a level of expectation that I'm going to be able to, A, get in, and if I can't get in, they're still going to accommodate their services to me in some capacity. So that's helped me be a producer, not just a consumer. ADA on a typical farm probably doesn't really apply much because it's a private entity. My farm, I am open to the public, and I have retail. So I'm bringing public into my farm to pick my strawberries, buy my strawberries. So as a business owner, I'm like any other business owner thinking, how can I accommodate people with special needs? I struggle with the same thing in a different capacity, but some of the same issues that this hotel would. If someone comes with a pet to my farm, they're not allowed to take them out into the fields because if a pet defecates in a strawberry field, that's an unhealthy thing. But if somebody comes with a service dog, how can I make a reasonable accommodation for that? The ADA can't just be a piece of dead policy that lets technology pass it on by. The ADA is going to have to keep up with technology. As technology changes, the ADA is going to need to look at technology on how it can improve the elimination of barriers with people with communication problems. And to another extent, people with architectural barriers as technology changes. I mean, my grandpa would have never believed those glass elevators climbing up that wall right now. It's unbelievable. He wouldn't want to listen to you. He would want to stand there and watch that all day, because that engineering wasn't available in my grandpa's day. But when the old wooden churches I talk about with the wooden steps, it wasn't their fault. They designed a church that way. People like me didn't survive. We had a place in their church. It was buried behind it. So they made room in the community for people like me. We just didn't survive. Now we're in the community, make room for us. Or bear our burden, because if you don't bear our burden, or if we don't allow us to carry our own weight or pull what weight we can, you're going to have to bear our burden. The ADA has elevated the attitude in the nation slowly over time, and it still gets better all the time, where people don't look at someone where when I first got hurt, if I'd have lived in another town, they would have considered me invalid. In other words, invalid. You know, I no longer have worth since I'm broken. That wasn't true in my little town. The ADA has changed the attitude of people to where people with disabilities are looked upon less and less and less as invalid or invalid, and they have worth. And you can do things and you can go places. I look forward to the day where we're looked at as more employers and less employees. Breaking New Ground's project based out of Purdue University works with farmers and ranchers with disabilities. Farming's statistically one of the most dangerous occupations in the country. We see farmers get all types of disabilities in addition to what everybody else is exposed to anyway, because of the nature of the business. And farmers are very independent. When a farmer like myself gets a disability, the last thing we really want to do is like, well, not only do you have to adjust to your disability, but now you need to sell your farm and move to town. So farmers are kind of used to dealing with unfair things in life. You know, prices go up and down, droughts come and go, equipment breaks. If you can't buy a new solution, then you repair and plow around it. You know, the old adage is, if you can't pull the stump in the field, you plow around it. You don't let the whole field go to waste. Farmers typically adapt pretty well, but there's no need to reinvent the wheel. You know, we help them with information and technology as to, you know, how can you continue to live and work on your farm and pay your bills and raise your family. So, and we do that across the country, actually across the world. Breaking New Grounds, I've played an important role there, being a consultant with Breaking New Ground. For instance, we've gone in Indiana to every county courthouse, every library, in rural counties anyway, every fairgrounds, every cooperative extension service. We've had workshops for even churches, which technically are exempt from the ADA. But when I first started with Breaking New Ground, you drive around Indiana and all these churches with old steps, and now you drive around, even though they're exempt, most every church at least has a ramp, if not an accessible entrance. I think, yeah, we really facilitated change there.